first. And I'll just tell you quickly how I learned about APSE. I was just trying to figure out as many resources as I could that I could find on the web to help me understand better employment issues and people with disabilities and what's going on, what's the current trends, what are people talking about, what's going on legislatively, what are some of the best practices. And I came across a lot of information and it was all very, very confusing. But this is one of the organizations that I came across. And so I dug in a little bit, and I'm going to just tell you a little bit about what I found out about the organization, and then also tell you what's happening in South Carolina. So, Employment First, let's see, there we go. What is Employment First? So, Employment First, it's basically a movement to deliver meaningful wages, meaningful job, fair wages to all people with disabilities. So it's a mindset. It's a mindset that everyone is employable and in a competitive environment. Okay, and so they really start and end everything with that premise, with that belief that's strongly held. And so I thought I would touch it and it would, there we go. Okay, so the association's been around a really long time. Has anyone heard of APSE before? Yes, we have a member here in the audience. Okay, so APSE was founded in '88, so they've been around a very long time, and there are 39 chapters throughout the country. They also have relationships in other countries as well. So South Carolina just put together our chapter, and that was chartered last year. So we are a new chapter, but we are ready to dig in and ready to grow. So yeah, 39 states. And members of APSE can be professionals, they can be people that work in the employment space, they can be people with disabilities, they can be family members, people with disabilities, they can be people that are just interested in policy that relates to employment and people with disabilities. It can be, pretty much open to anybody that has an interest in Employment First and those concepts. Okay, so really this is the premier organization that really believes and is promoting to the fullest extent Employment First. They're very involved in advocacy, very involved in sharing best practices, and really that's what you're going to get out of it if you decide to join. I put this graphic up, I hope you can see it. It kind of explains the difference between different types of models. And the model that APSE supports is inclusion. There's other models, exclusion, of course, segregation, and integration, but it takes all these models to the higher level to be truly inclusive, and that's what they mean by community employment, where people with disabilities, people without disabilities, working in the same job side by side, there's no separation. Okay? It's more about what is the person's skills, what are their interests, and what kind of environment do they want to work in. That's going to suit them and that's going to be a good fit for them. So that's what those kinds of decisions and those kinds of thoughts are guiding in terms of employment. Who benefits from Employment First? This is too tiny, you can't see it. but employers, obviously. Employers are benefiting. Why? Anybody have the answer why? It's an easy question.
Good jobs.
Yeah, they're getting qualified people that are interested in doing the work that they have at hand, and so they're able to achieve their mission. People with disabilities, of course, why are they benefiting from Employment First?
And support themselves.
Support themselves, just like anybody else that's working. Competitive wages, being into the social environment of the workplace. All of those things are obviously important. Families, family members, the whole family benefits from having an engaged people in the family. Communities obviously are feeling the economic effects of more people working. Obviously, taxpayers are also benefiting. We're all taxpayers, and we're all benefiting because less money is spent on benefits and supports, and more money or more is being paid in taxes, of course. So everybody kind of benefits there. APSE has a lot of goals. The goals are, to really promote this model to help establish these equitable employment opportunities, to advocate at the federal, state, and local levels, and that's why we have a national chapter and then we have the state chapters. Working with the policymakers is other things that we'll do. Raising awareness within the business community, that's of course an important piece. And then advocating for social change. Reasons to become an APSE member. Well, it's pretty obvious, but those reasons are to be part of a community where people have that like-minded goals in mind, and that we're all moving toward the same future. Making that difference, helping to become a self-advocate yourself, or helping to build self-advocacy is a great thing. Affecting change in our communities and throughout our country. Learning from others. They have lots of webinars. They have regional conferences, a big national conference. There's a lot of opportunities to learn from each other and through APSE, and then to kind of stay on the cutting edge as well. So we are looking at APSE, looking for members. It's quite easy to join. You're just going to type in APSE on your computer, and you will come across a chapter. And then you can also join the local chapter from there. Troy, you want to tell us how you joined? What was the process like when you joined? Yeah.
Yeah, it was through the website. It was pretty easy. When I joined, there wasn't the South Carolina. It was a couple years ago.
Okay.
So it was just a national one, and there was a way for just a family member to join, and that's $75, so it's pretty reasonable.
Yeah,
so
and that's for
they
a
have
year.
different rates in for organizations and that, but I think when I joined, since I have someone with autism, I joined as a family member. So yeah.
Well, great. Well, we are looking for the people that are interested in these different topics. Chapter development, obviously, as a new chapter, we need to develop what we're, how our frameworks. We've got bylaws, we've got a charter, we've got some structure, but we need to continue to grow in that fashion. Public policy, of course, we need people that are interested in public policy that can help us advocate for employment first. There's a student chapter. There's some research that we can be conducting. If anyone's interested in research, I am. That's really my area of interest. Lots of, as I mentioned, training and conferences, and as well we can be, at some point perhaps we can be providing a conference or developing our own conference and providing that throughout the state here. So that could be an opportunity if this chapter can grow and strengthen numbers. And then also PR, of course, we want to share the concept of employment first and share what's happening and get that out to the public and to other, anybody that it matters. And it matters, of course, to employers, communities, families, taxpayers, right? So we're looking for you to help. These are our current board members. Of the South Carolina chapter. There are people from the Charles Lee Center, the Babcock Center, let's see, me, I'm an individual business owner, Able, South Carolina. Community Options is also another one. We have a self-advocate individual that she's joined and she's on the board as well. So you don't have to be representing any particular organization. You can join and be an active member. Under my name, you see public relations. I really don't want to do that, so that position is open. What I really want to do is
Great, you're doing great.
Thank you. But what I really want to do is the research piece. So anyway, if anybody loves public relations, we've got a spot for you. And a little bit about the membership types. As Terry said, self-advocates and family members are pretty cheap at $75. Professional memberships, that's what I am, and that's $120. Students are pretty cheap at $50. CESP membership, $90. CESP is a Certified Employment Specialist Professional. And this is really interesting because employment specialists can earn this credential to show that they have built the competencies to really do a strong job with connecting people with disabilities to employment. It's a marketable credential, it travels with you, and I think I've looked it over pretty extensively, and to me it seems like if you're working in the employment specialist space, that would be a good thing to do to really hone your skills. And then you're part of a community of people that also have that credential. So I would recommend looking into that. There's a lot of information about the CESP credential on the APSE website. Business members, we also look for business members, and there's different levels of that. I'm not going to read all that, and I know you can't either, but benefits of membership, basically I think we already talked about that. That's advocacy. It's connecting with other people that are trying to move employment forward. That's participating in educational opportunities that is provided through APSE. So those are the primary benefits. And I wanted to call your attention to the upcoming APSE conference. It is June 18th through the 20th in St. Louis. I went to a regional conference in Atlanta about a year and a half ago, and it was the best conference that I've attended on this topic. I liked it so much because everything about employment and people with disabilities was framed in this employment first mindset. And I could feel myself shift in the way I looked at things, as well as I could see that happening throughout the room. You hear a lot from individuals with disabilities as they talk about their experiences with employment, and they're walking the talk as self-advocates there at the conference. I heard from some really innovative other leaders that have talked about how they've changed throughout their careers, and what they're doing now, and how you can, and everybody's great about sharing the way that they are making steps forward. So look into it if you're interested. I think it's a great conference. I hope I'll get to go to the national one sometime. And I'll take questions. Hi, Rita. I'm glad to finally see you, because I don't know if it's nice to see you again. Yeah. Anybody have? Yes.
So do you work with individuals that are seeking employment?
Personally, I do not. So I say employment specialist, I'm more of an employment consultant. I work with businesses. So my background is in human resources and in workforce development from the business side. So what I do is work with the businesses to say, hey, where are your pain points? Let's see if we can't broaden our application pool and break down some of the barriers to bringing people in to the workplace. And so as I work with them on trying to break down some of those barriers, then on the other side I also work with agencies like Arc Midlands, Vocational Rehabilitation, Goodwill, Thrive Upstate, et cetera, because there's many. And I work with them to try to connect their candidates, job candidates, with these employers that I've been negotiating with. So I kind of serve as a middleman. I don't really work directly with individuals with disabilities, but I try to break down the barriers so that those connections can be made.
And that whole thing, our employment group that we started a few years ago, which Laura was a member of that as well, that group, you know, the way Greenville Can works is we bring people together to try to figure out how we can, you know, capitalize on opportunities and solve problems locally. And so the members of that group, which are made up of folks who are on the provider side, said, wouldn't it be great if we had someone that had HR experience that could go represent us collectively to larger employers, whereas right now we're all kind of coming at them because we realize that there's barriers on their employer side. And so we're like, gosh, wouldn't it be great to do that? And we were able to get a grant through the DD Council that ran through Thrive Upstate. Laura expressed interest in it and was the perfect person for it. So we had that grant that allowed us to do it for a year, and then we got a Grant Foundation grant that's given us essentially 3 more years to work on that. And so we've got, you know, members of the system around the table, and it's really exciting stuff. So.
So I have a question.
Sure.
So how often do you get big industries like BMW, for instance, that would allow some of our youth, I say youth or young adults, to come in and try to be trained in certain positions in the business?
Yeah, you know, we've done for a couple of years, we've been working with the Greenville Society for Human Resource Management. So that's a local chapter of a big national organization as well. And so we've gotten some warm leads through that connection. Some of the companies are small companies, some are medium-sized, some are the bigger. There's pros and cons to every level of company. Some of the bigger ones are really interested because they have a big shortage of staff. They really need to bring more people in. However, they tend to be less flexible than a smaller organization because they've got, you know, very stiff requirements, and their process for application can be a real big challenge. Oftentimes that is the challenge, is making it from the moment you look at the job ad to see, you know, do I meet these requirements? Do the requirements even match the actual job? If they do, it's because that's usually an issue. But then getting through the online process, getting through the interview process, getting through the onboarding process, you know, there's issues, and there's issues for anybody. You know, it's hard to get a job, say, with the hospital system. You know, anybody who's ever applied for a job in a hospital system can tell you they've probably heard crickets for the first 50 applications they put in. So, you know, that can be a barrier. But we're working. Did I answer your question? I don't know if I did. I just started talking. But yeah, I mean, you know, we're looking all the time. Anytime I can get a lead, I'll follow up on it and see what the company is interested in doing. And so that approach of looking, what does the company want to achieve, and then how can I work with them on tweaking their processes so that they can be more inclusive and more integrated in the way that they select their candidates and promote people.
I guess my second part of the question is, do you partner with schools, high schools, and because some youth are not just realistically, they don't want to go to college and they don't want to spend 4 years in learning. They want to get, you know, some type of training. So I know they have like career services at the schools. Do you guys link up to see?
I mean, there's connections there, but I don't work directly with the school district. I do work directly with vocational rehabilitation, and I'd like to throw it over to Laura Beth.
So we actually have a school-based program called Transitions, and any of those students that are working with the VR counselors through that, as long as the opportunities that Laura is presenting to us, they meet those requirements, then yes, they are eligible. And we've actually gotten several students who are going through the occupational diploma where they can go to work for 3 days out of the week, and that counts towards their school credit. So yeah, they do have those opportunities.
Well, and we've got a transition group through Greenville Canvas made up of the folks that are over transition to the school district, and we're not trying to recreate what they're doing, but we're trying to figure out how can we get what they're doing more integrated and connected with employers, and Laura's going to be a liaison with that group as well.
That's great.
This isn't so much asking, but now, are you still working with Project Search? And I'm kind of wondering who's the main person with that?
Yeah, I really don't work personally a lot with Project Search because Project Search is kind of doing their own thing. They're, working with both rehab, they're working with the school district, they're working with, the current Project Search here in Greenville is working with Bon Secours.
Right.
So,
Because
But
maybe you might know that. It used to be Hannah.
It used to be
But she's
Hannah, then it
long
was
gone.
Janie Neely, and Janie is going to be moving to Columbia, so I think they're going to be
Transition.
hiring a new person for that role. But my understanding is they're committed to doing that. Y'all, we have time for one last question, and then we're going to shift over. Any last question for Laura? Thank you, Laura, for pitching in.
thank you, thanks for